it better than us? No!
Your home for the best sports coverage in Utah. You're listening to Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, we did. We did a rap song.
It's cool. We're talking about Jake's band, who, closes the show with...
Our last bumper.
Two Amigos on the airwaves or whatever it is.
Yeah, talking sports.
What's our island?
The reggae hit. I don't know.
Island Living.
Island Living or whatever it is. Called. Yeah. We did.
I forgot you guys delved into the world of rap.
We did.
For a minute.
A little tune called Oh Man, I Had a Rough Morning.
I'm telling you, if there was ever a day to play it.
Oh, it's totally today. I sent it to Christian. We can play it. You want to play it later in the show?
Sure.
Pretty incredible.
Really good stuff.
Well, I was inspired by a great moment in sports history.
You guys are diverse.
Yeah, we do everything, dude.
Yeah.
I told you. We do it all.
Without Boundaries. That should be your band name, Without Boundaries.
Without Boundaries. That's great. That's really good.
You guys will go anywhere. Say anything. Sing about anything.
Any style.
Any style.
Yeah, you bet. We can do it all. All right. Well, a little tease. We'll play that later in the show.
Okay.
It's great. You're going to love it. But it's time to talk Little Utes taking on UCF tonight in Orlando. Joining the show now, covers UCF for the Orlando Sentinel, Matt Murschel with us on Jake and Ben. Matt, thanks for a few minutes. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing well. Utah playing for nothing. Same with Central Florida. So what do you make of this game? I mean, these were two teams that, Utah certainly thought they were going to be at the top of the Big 12, and there was conversations before the season started that Central Florida was a dark horse to maybe make the Big 12 title game, and there is one win between the two of them over the last 7 weeks. It's just been absolutely atrocious football. So what's on the line for Central Florida today?
Well, I think what's on the line for them is to try to finish strong and to try to win a game for the seniors. Gus Malzahn has talked about that this week in his press conference on Monday. He really wouldn't focus on anything else besides that. They want to win this game for the seniors, for guys like R.J. Harvey and Kobe Hudson, and guys who have been really big parts of what UCF has been trying to do over the last couple of years. He feels like this is their opportunity to send the players out on a high note, maybe to try to build a little bit of momentum and going into next season. We're not exactly sure what's going to happen in the off season. There's been a lot of speculation about Gus Malzahn's status with the team, and so I think they'd like to finish strong, finish in front of a home crowd, and just kind of put this year behind them, and take the film out back and bury it, and forget about it for the season as much as they can. But it's definitely not been the kind of anticipation I think we saw when this game was announced, before the beginning of the season, that this was going to be one of those 8:00 games on Fox.
Take us through a little bit the transfer high, or the kind of the transfers this year. I know a lot of players have just decided to go elsewhere mid-year, which is more common now, of course, than it used to be. But take us through that story a little bit.
Yeah, mid-year transfers, they had 7 guys who opted to redshirt and then with the intent to go in the transfer portal. They had a few starters. Xavier Townsend was a starting slot receiver for them. He was also kind of their main kickoff returner. He decided to go in the portal. Their kicker, Colton Boomer, had been kind of banged up and hurt. He decided to go in the portal as well. That kind of forced them to go with a backup, Grant Reddick, who came out there as well. And then really the rest of the guys were guys that, were backups, guys who weren't really maybe getting a lot of snaps to begin with. Wes Dorsey was an offensive lineman who really didn't see the field much except on special teams, and so he went in the portal as well. He was an off-season transfer to begin with, so his time at UCF was really thin. And then they had a guy like Kevin Call, who was a defensive end, who really didn't do much except on special teams, and decided to make a move and also transfer. So it's not as big as I think it sounds, as you mentioned. I think this is something that teams are dealing with, over and over again. But when you're struggling and when you're losing games and you're in the middle of starting to be in the middle of a 5-game losing streak, those kind of things will definitely become highlights and people want to talk about of like what's going on with the program and why things have kind of gone the way they have.
It's probably too oversimplified to say Utah's season fell apart when Cam Rising got hurt, but really there was a very clear before and after. What happened in Central Florida that went from dark horse championship team to where they are today?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the quarterback situation. They before the season started, they had brought in KJ Jefferson, former Arkansas quarterback, and expected him to be the starter. And he was going to bring, felt like he could fit in well what Gus Malzahn's offense was going to do. But KJ never really looked comfortable in the offense. He struggled throwing the football. They had trouble kind of, on some of the run plays they had designed for him. He never really looked 100% like the KJ Jefferson that everyone expected to see when he stepped on the field, at Arkansas. So when, about 4 or 5 games into the season, Gus Malzahn made a decision to make a switch at quarterback, which wasn't a very easy decision because, again, in today's day and age with name, image, and likeness, you pay money to bring a player in with an NIL deal. You want to believe to get your money's worth, and he wasn't working out. So they made the switch. They made the weird decision to start E.J. Colson, who was a true freshman. He played about 6 or 7 snaps, and then they replaced him with another transfer, and Javarius Brown, Ja'Cory Brown, who came in from Miami as a transfer as well. And, Ja'Cory really struggled through a few games. And then all of a sudden, Gus went with quarterback number 4, the 4th stringer, who was Dylan Risk. And Dylan Risk has actually been the best quarterback they've had this season. He's thrown the ball a lot better. He looks more comfortable in the offense. This also kind of coincides with Gus Malzahn giving up the play-calling duties to offensive coordinator Tim Harris. And the offense has looked a lot better. It's moved the ball around a little bit more. But when you don't have consistency in the quarterback position, and you guys know this, obviously, talking about what happened with Cam Rising, when you don't have that consistency at the quarterback position, it's awful hard sometimes to get the offense going, and things just kind of snowballed from there. And they had issues with other transfer players who never really kind of fit the potential they were expecting. So that and some coaching moves, with Ted Roof being fired, their defensive coordinator, it really kind of snowballed into really what is a disastrous season for them.
So for several years now, obviously making the transition into the Big 12 plays a big part of this. But I've heard a lot of people, informed college football people say UCF is a bit of a sleeping giant with its location, obviously, in Florida. Mm-hmm. And it has a huge enrollment, alumni base, all the things. Do you believe that's that to be the case? I mean, do they just need to find, the right recipe to really unlock the potential?
Yeah, I do still think that they have they are a sleeping giant. I mean, I think if you think about where they've gone in the last decade, people didn't know what UCF was really, or where UCF was. They get into a New Year's Six game. They beat Auburn. In 2017 they go undefeated. They become in the college football playoff discussion, even on the peripheral. And I think all of a sudden you started to see this program for a couple of years really start to draw a little attention. They make the push. They get into the Big 12. I think what's going to help them a little bit more in the future is, the first couple of years they weren't getting full media rights money, full revenue money. So they'll start to get that starting this next year. So that's going to help them. They felt like they were behind the 8 ball, so to speak, when it came to facilities and your athletic budget. Their NIL has really tried to kind of get itself back in a position to be able to contend at a Power 4 level. It wasn't there when they went into the Big 12, obviously. They're still doing American Athletic Conference, money. And so I think eventually when things start to even themselves out and the money starts coming in and they can start to see some of the NIL issues that are going on. Now, we'll wait and see what happens with the House settlement situation, but they feel like they're in a pretty good spot. And once this stuff starts happening, they feel like they have an opportunity to get some players in that will help them win. I think the first couple of years were a lot harder than people anticipated, moving into a power conference. And I think that's what you're seeing over the first 2 years here in the Big 12.
Well, we're up to our eyes in tiebreaker scenarios trying to figure out what BYU has to do to get in tomorrow. They need to win. They need Arizona State to lose or Iowa State to lose. Who do you think ends up playing in the Big 12 title game?
Of all the teams, I've liked BYU the most. Since I've seen them play, against Ball State against UCF. I think they have an opportunity to make that push. This tiebreaker scenario is insane. I'm watching the Colorado game right now, and I'm just trying to figure out where everyone's going to be at, starting tomorrow. But that's been the Big 12 to a T, hasn't it? I mean, this has been a league of parity, and I think Commissioner Brett Yormark talked about that at the beginning of the year when in Las Vegas, during the football media days, that he felt like this conference was going to feature a lot of parity, and they've seen that so far. And I think that's good for the league. As much as, yes, it's great you have all these teams that people thought were going to win, to have 4 or 5 teams that are in it to the very last weekend, I think that's something that's outstanding. Now, I'm sure Brett would love to have seen these teams finish a little higher up. When you look at the college football playoff and the 12-team rankings, I think he's got to be a little bit concerned on where a Big 12 team lands. So that he would probably like to see better. But I mean, again, I think when you look at these teams, I think it's been an amazing season for a lot of these programs, and to finish the way they are, you just hope it doesn't get to a point where you have to go through, like you mentioned, like a 5, 6, 7, 8 step tiebreaker thing to get your final team in the championship game.
As long as you're watching the Colorado game and we're asking you random college football questions, who would your Heisman be? The two top contenders are currently playing. Who would you vote for?
Yeah, I'm a Heisman voter, so I'm going to keep that kind of a little bit to myself.
Fair enough.
So, but I think what you're seeing are two guys who are going to be finalists for sure. I think you're going to see a guy like Travis Hunter. I think you're going to see a guy in Ashton Jerry. He's going to be a guy that Gentry's going to get as well. And you may see, another player here or there find their way in there. I've seen both those guys. I saw the Boise State player last year, very talented player. And Travis Hunter's a very talented player. Now, Shadur Sanders, I know his name's been mentioned a little bit as well. I think Travis has got a better opportunity there as well. But it's going to be interesting to see where these players end up finishing, because you look at the rest of the country, and normally that's an award that's been given to quarterbacks. And so you're going to have to see who else is going to be out there that can make a big push as well. So it's going to be a busy week, and I'm sure over the next couple of weeks, they want to see how teams perform. I know I'm a person, when I vote in these, I like to wait till after the conference championships. Like, I vote right basically what it's due, because I like to make sure I got the full sample size and don't vote early.
Awesome. Well, good luck on making that vote. That's pretty sweet. We appreciate you coming on, Matt. Thank you very much, and enjoy the game tonight.
All right, thanks a lot, guys. Take care and have fun.